Hi everyone, welcome back. This is Tuplex, and welcome to another episode of Felsbrunn. Since the last episode, I have completed a couple of tasks. I finished cultivating field number 20, which is the small one that we started with. It was originally planted with sugar beets when we bought it. I didn't want to have to deal with harvesting the sugar beets, so I just cultivated everything under it. You can see that now we have a rather odd percentage of fertilization. And the reason for that is I think I found a bug. If we take a look at the fertilization, this part right here is where I hired a worker, where it's at the final stage. And all this other spotty stuff is where I was driving the tractor manually. So I think if I had used a worker for this, then cultivating the crop into the soil would have added a layer of fertilization. But for some reason it didn't work. I don't know. I mean, it worked in little bits and pieces, but for some reason it didn't work when I was driving the tractor myself. So I think that may be an issue in the game. I know that generally if you cultivate in a crop or plow in a crop that's already on the field, you should get some fertilization for it. I'm pretty sure it worked that way in 17 as well. The other thing that I did is I finished harvesting field 13, which you can see over there. So all the field work up till this point has been completed. So my tractor is over here at the silo. I've emptied out all of the grain. So we can see now that in our silo we have 42,865 liters of oats, which we can sell. And I've put my harvester away after washing it with my power washer. So the next thing that I would like to do is to plant something on field number 20 and start selling some crop and getting some money. So let's teleport over to the case tractor. I've hooked this up to the AgroMash planter, or seeder, I should say. I think when you say planter, you're referring to row crops like corn and soybeans. And when you refer to a seeder, it's, I don't know what the corresponding term would be, but it's for grains and things that are, that are not in nice even rows. Okay, so after I take my sip of coffee, the next thing that we need to do is fill up the seeder. So this particular one will hold seed as well as fertilizer. And if I remember correctly, it holds 3,000 seed and 2,000 fertilizer. So let's buy that. I'm going to buy, I'll buy 3 bags of seed because these are 1,000 liters each. Right? We have to keep signing that disclaimer that we're going to pick it up at the store. And then I will buy 2 bags of solid fertilizer. Okay, and that should fill it up. And I expect that this will give us enough to plant crop on both fields. And I think I got my controller figured out. Let's see here. I think it's still working. Yeah, awesome. Okay, I can still attach it. Oh, and I also found out why the head tilts when I look to the side. It's because of the way that all the vehicles are configured in the game. They decided to configure it with the default head position in a minus 25 degree angle when you're using head tracking. So here I'm just resetting the center of it. So I need to look straight out. Okay, that's better. But as a result of that, because honestly, I think that's okay because When I used it in FS17, I would always look up before I recentered the track IR because I like to be looking down a little bit. But the problem is that now by default your head is not in a flat plane, and that's why it. Okay, now I got the wrong door open, and that's why we get that tilt when I look to the side. So I'm hoping that they'll fix that at some point, or at least give us an option to configure it in some other way. There we go. All right, so that tops up the fertilizer. And then we'll get the seed. And you can hear the engine spinning up when we load. And I think that's intended to simulate that if you were filling this, that maybe you would be running some sort of an auger or a mixer or something with the PTO. Now this particular seeder is not powered by the PTO. It looks like it's hydraulic only and electrical only. So I think it's probably not completely an accurate simulation with this particular seeder, but I think it's a pretty cool effect anyway. All right, let's turn on our beacons to let the other drivers know that I can't be trusted with their safety while I'm on the road. I spent some more time playing last night, and I'm feeling a little more comfortable with the controls, so hopefully that'll come across in my video. I still haven't gotten them set up exactly the way that I want them, so I'm still going to be relying on the keyboard for some of the functions. All right, let's turn in over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a worker on this so that we can sell grain while the field is being seeded. But before I do that, I'm going to try to make the job a little bit easier for the worker. And I'm going to put a couple rows of headland on this side so that it doesn't have to try to turn around so close to these trees and shrubs. All right, now let me see here. I don't think this one needs to be unfolded. No, I think I only need to turn it on and lower it, and then we should be all set. Oh, geez. What did I want to plant? Yeah, I have wheat selected. I think wheat's okay. We'll do wheat on this field, and then I think I said I wanted to do canola on the big field. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do either canola or soybeans on the big field. I think it probably doesn't matter too much which one we choose. I think I'll do canola. Okay, and lift. And I need to apologize to my neighbor for running over his crop. Did I turn crop destruction off? No, it is on. Okay, well, I guess it's not possible to destroy your neighbor's crop, only your own. I guess that makes sense. Especially in multiplayer, you don't want people just driving through your field and messing up all your hard work. All right, let me back this up a bit. This is not going to be the fastest 2 rows you've ever seen, but we'll get it done. And then, like I said, we'll get the worker on this while we get to the business of selling our oats. And then when this field's done, we'll turn our attention to field 13. Okay, now this should be putting down another layer of fertilization, and it is. So that's good. All right, now on this row here that's already fertilized 100%, we're going to be wasting a little bit of fertilizer, because when you have a seeder that applies fertilizer as well as seed, it's gonna spend fertilizer even if the ground is 100% fertilized. It doesn't make any distinction there. So you can use this seeder to plant without using fertilizer, but you just have to empty the fertilizer out of it. If you load seeds only, then it'll only plant seeds, obviously. So you can use this that way, but if you have fertilizer in it, the fertilizer is going to be applied whether you want it or not. I think it would be a nice addition to the game to have the ability to turn that off, but we're not there yet. Okay, so we'll hop out of that, and let's get in our T6 and start it up. And we need to get around to the other side of the silo so that we can load. Okay, so let's load with oats, and let's decide where we want to take our bounty. So best price is far and away the grain mill. We can tag it so that we can see it more easily. I'm not yet intimately familiar with every place on the map. We'll close our cover, and let's open up the map. All right, so the grain mill is up just north of the gas station. That's not too far away. All right, so I'll keep the mini map on. We'll turn on our beacons again. Yeah, you can see that our workers having a lot of trouble over there with those trees. It's a little too close. See what I mean about the traffic in this game? I obviously have the right of way. So, it's nice to see cars buzzing around because it makes the map feel a little more alive, but we will probably reach a point where I'm just going to turn the traffic off just because the idiotic behavior breaks whatever realism is gained by having the traffic there in the first place. Like, sometimes I feel like it's less realistic having these cars than it would be just to have a bunch of empty roads, just because their behavior is so completely idiotic. And it's been the same since Farming Simulator 15 when I first got into the game. And I'm sure that FS9 and 11 and 13, I'm sure they weren't any better. So maybe one day they will get around to improving the traffic. But it's not a big deal. Okay, let's see. And that should be highlighting exactly where we need to empty. So we pull up. I'm going to use my keyboard. Now, when you're using the SciTech panel, here's the problem that I have. The steering wheel has some controls on it. The steering wheel has gamepad controls on it. And then you have the side panel, which has all these buttons. So most of these functions that you see here are mapped on the steering wheel. Okay, we got $8,000. Not bad. They're mapped on the steering wheel, and they're also mapped on the side panel. But unfortunately, this help menu and the tooltips only show what the controls are on the wheel and not on the side panel. So all this 6+4 and all that stuff, it does me no good. And I can't use the steering wheel controls because I have no idea what button 6 is, because not all the buttons on the wheel are labeled. Like I can see 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? And I know left stick and right stick. I can figure that out, but when it talks about 4 and 6 and stuff like that, I have no idea what those are. Or 4 I do, but 6 I don't know. I think it's one of the turn signal buttons. So anyway, I would just like it. I would just like the menu to be able to. I would like to be able to configure the menu to show specifically which controller's bindings to put up there. I mean, the game knows what they are, so I don't think it would be too tough to add that into the game. But I'm sure that's not a big priority. I don't think Farming Simulator is officially supporting the Farming Simulator controllers that I have anymore. When they came out, they were made for Farming Simulator, but now they just call it the SciTech Heavy Equipment Wheel and Control Panel or something like that. It's not. I don't think it's anything that's specific to Farm Sim anymore. So it wouldn't surprise me if Giants does most of their testing with game controllers for consoles, to be honest, because I expect that before too long they'll probably have more console users than PC users anyway. Okay. All right. We still have a pretty good price at the green mill. So let's make another trip. And hopefully this guy will pick up the pace soon. Oh, you know what? Yeah, actually, I think he's going slower than he could because I had the cruise control set at 10 kph for when I was collecting from the harvester. And when you do that, even when you hire a worker, the vehicle will only go as fast as you set your cruise control. So it's a good idea just to reset it to maximum before you hire a worker. Yeah, see now, look how much faster he's going. That's better. So he was going slow and it was all my fault. Okay, back to the selling point. Which one was it? The grain mill. Okay, this time I'm going to turn here. I think this is a little bit shorter. Track IR seems to be behaving a lot better now. I didn't do anything to fix it. I was researching the jumping around issue that I had, and it was basically what I suspected, that that sort of thing is usually just caused by, having extra light in the room. So now it's late in the day. I've got the curtains drawn. I just have my low wattage desk lamp on, so hopefully there won't be any extra light in the room that'll confuse the emitter. Speaking of the game controllers, though, I've been thinking about just spending some time using a gamepad, and I have an Xbox controller for my PC. I've been thinking about spending some time with it and see if maybe I like it better. I'm sure it's not going to be as, feel as realistic as using the wheel and everything, but I'm sure it would be a little bit easier. Okay, let's see if I can do this with my wheel. 6 and 4. No. 6, 4. Yeah, there we go. Okay, 6 is the right turn signal. And you can tell because my right turn signal turned on. All right, well, at least now I don't have to reach for the keyboard. But yeah, I'm not very good with a gamepad, just because I haven't really spent any time playing on a console. And I think no matter what you use, it's going to be hard to beat the steering precision that you can get with a wheel and pedals. Those little tiny joysticks, I think, are harder to be subtle with. Okay, so we've got a little bit more in the tank, or in the silo, I should say. I don't think we've got a full load. But since my other tractor is still busy, I think we might as well take another trip and just sell it all and get the income. We've got a decent amount of cash now, so we could consider an additional piece of equipment or paying down the loan. Paying down the loan is not nearly as fun as buying additional equipment, of course. But if we keep a little extra money, then what I like to do is pay down the loan as much as I can. Oh, I need to go on the other side. I like to pay down the loan as much as I can before midnight so that I don't get charged as much interest, and then I can always take out the money again if I need it. Okay, no, I do have another full load, and then some. I think a bigger tipper would be a nice investment. That way we could do this in fewer trips. 12,000 is not a whole lot, especially when we have a big field. So maybe I'll do that for the next harvest. Just get a larger tipper, maybe one of those, one of the agroliners. I think they hold 24,000 each, maybe 25. And there's two versions. One has a drawbar, like this one does, which I always prefer to use because I can actually back those up. And then there's another version that has a dolly, which it has a front axle. And that one is easier to pull because it doesn't put any weight on the back of the tractor. But I cannot back those things up to save my life. But if you have one with the drawbar and one with the dolly, you can put them together and you can pull two at once and maybe even more. I'm not sure exactly which combinations work together, but I know at least that if you have one of each, you can hook the drawbar to your tractor and you can hook the dolly up to the other trailer and you can pull two at once. So it's a nice way to double your carrying capacity. Okay, so now we've got close to 7,000 left. I'm not going to make another trip for that. I'll just leave that in the silo, and the next time we have more oats, we'll deal with it at that time. I don't want to spend the whole episode just running back and forth. But I'm happy to see that the price has remained stable this whole time. One of the complaints of a lot of people about previous versions of the game, or about FS17 and specifically, was that as soon as you sold something, the prices would adjust like almost immediately. So it would just kind of force you to try to get the biggest trailers you could possibly find so that you can dump as much all at once as possible so that you can sell as much as you can before the price drops. With 15, that was set up so that the prices would only adjust once every hour at the top of the hour. So with that one, at least, you would wait until, let's say you would wait until 10:01, and then you would sell as much as you can until 10:59, and then you would stop and wait for the price to change and see if it was still worthwhile to keep selling or not. So I'm not sure what the mechanic is with 19, but it does look like the price was constant through all 3 loads that we dropped off there. So that's good. As long as it's not immediate, I'm going to be satisfied. Okay, so let's drop off our trailer, and then we can think about what else we need to do. We'll check what field 13 needs. I think it needs to be plowed, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it does. That's why we bought the subsoiler, right? Okay, so this is how I back up trailers. I look at it from the front of the vehicle, and then I just steer in the direction I want the trailer to go, and everything works out. There we go. All right, I had the right idea, wrong tool. All right. Yeah, so let's take a look here. Yeah, field 13 needs plowing. It doesn't need lime, thankfully, but it does need to be plowed. But before I plow it, I want to fertilize it. So what I'll do is I'll put down a layer of fertilization, and then we'll plow it. And then that way, when we go back over it with the seeder, we'll be able to put down the second stage of fertilization while we're seeding. Now, the way that the fertilization works in the game is that you have to, like, you can't just make 2 passes with fertilizer and get to 100%. There has to be a change of state in the field in between each layer of fertilizer. So what does that mean? Well, a change of state would mean that you've plowed the field, for example. You go from an unplowed state to a plowed state, or cultivating, or planting seeds, or having the I hit the wrong button again. Or having your crop go through a growth phase. God. This is going to take me some time to get used to. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll put down fertilizer, we'll plow it in, and then that way the field will be prepared to receive another layer of fertilization. Okay, so this time we need liquid fertilizer, and these tanks hold 2,000. My sprayer holds 2,400, I believe. So I think I'll just buy 1 container. I think that will be enough to get both of them. Or actually, I don't need to do the second field. I only need to do field 13. I'm pretty sure this will be enough to get field 13 done. Okay. So again, here the engine's revving up. Now this one is powered by the PTO. So you could imagine that we hooked up a hose, and there's a pump in there that is running hard when we're filling up the tank. Now that I think of it, I bet, I haven't tried it, but I would imagine that if I hook up this Kuhn, if I hook up this tank on the front, I bet it would work with the Hardy as well. I think I read somewhere that in this version of the game, all of the seed and fertilizer tanks will work with any piece of equipment that uses seed or fertilizer, even if they're not the same brand. So when we get more fields and or bigger fields, we might want to do that, just so we don't have to refill as often. With that additional tank, I think we would be able to get, let's see, this one holds 2,000, that one holds maybe 1,500, so Yeah, we still wouldn't be able to get 2 containers full, but it would be close. All right, so that guy's still busy. Since I have nothing better to do at the moment, I will apply the fertilizer myself. All right. Let's unfold it. I'll try to... Yeah, I'm a little too far over. Let's get a little closer to the edge here. Okay. And I can kind of see a pattern on the field that I should be able to follow to keep relatively straight. Let's go in cab. Sorry about that. I was sipping my coffee. I'll try to do that when I'm outside of cab view next time. Okay. I can get over a little bit further. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. Once I start a row, I'm better off just staying straight. All right. So maximum speed here, 12. It's fairly slow, but this is a very wide sprayer, so it won't take long to get this field done. Probably 4 or 5 passes will be enough. So far I've gotten some good comments on this series. I appreciate all the feedback. I have to admit that I was a little bit nervous about starting a series with a different game. I've done, I think, over 300 videos for Factorio. So I feel more than comfortable enough doing Factorio content, but this is my first time doing any other game, so I was naturally a little bit nervous about how well it would be received, especially since all of my current subscribers are subscribers because of Factorio. So, and I have a Discord channel as well. The link is in the description to the invite, so feel free to stop by. So I was chatting to some of the folks in Discord, and everybody was really cool about seeing the Farm Sim series. I found out that a lot of people that play Factorio also play Farm Sim, in addition to myself. I think there's, I don't know, certain games attract people with certain types of interests, and I think there's a lot of overlap between the things that people like about Farming Simulator and the things that people like about Factorio. And it's nice for me to have some variety. All right, that's 2 passes done. And we've used about 20% or so. Yeah, so I think we'll definitely have enough to get the whole field done. Now, one of the mods I relied on heavily in the last version of the game was a mod called GPS. Now, if you ever watch, real life farming on YouTube or something, which I recommend you do if you haven't done it already. The equipment is really cool. One of my favorites is there's a channel called Tractor Spotter, and they do really high quality videos. But anyway, you'll find that most of the tractors doing field work are driven by GPS. So they've got a computer that basically has a map of the field, and it knows the width of the tool and all that stuff, and it calculates a path through the field that has a minimal amount of overlap between passes, but also makes sure that everything gets covered. and then the GPS basically steers the vehicle. So you can see, like multiple tractors working on the same field with interleaved passes and doing all kinds of really cool stuff like that with the help of the GPS. So anyway, there's a mod, or there was a mod. Well, there still is if you play FS17. There's a mod called GPS that simulates that. And it'll basically give you a straight line, and you can adjust exactly where that line sits and how wide your tools are and everything. And then you activate it, and then your vehicle steering will lock on to where that line is, and you can put it on cruise control and just wait for it to get to the end of the field where you can turn it around. So it's really handy when you want to do straight lines and do things fairly quickly and easily. I will say, though, that it can make it kind of dull when you don't have to steer anymore. All you're doing is turning on the cruise control or pressing down the throttle and then just waiting to get to the end of the field. It's not very interesting. So it's got its pros and cons, I suppose. When I have the time, I like doing some of the field work myself. Not all of it, because it does get to be a little monotonous at times, especially when you have a big field. Like the plowing, for example, I'm probably not going to do much of that, if any of it, by myself. I'm just gonna hire a worker and go watch some videos on YouTube and wait for it to finish. And I'll be the first to admit that some of my time playing FS 15, 17, and 19 has been spent while I was AFK. So, and if you play for any length of time, you'll probably end up doing the same thing at some point. Although there's a lot of guys out there that claim that they do all the field work themselves. They never use workers. They play on hard mode using like antique tractors. And, some people really enjoy it. Personally, I find this game to be very relaxing. So doing this sort of thing, where I go up and down the field 7 or 8 times and not doing much else, I'm completely fine with that. I enjoy it. And I get a lot of satisfaction from doing the work myself. Huh, that's interesting. I've got that one patch of chopped straw there. Oh, I know what that was. That patch there is where at one point I had to drive into the crop to empty the harvester. And I think that's where my wheels went over the crop and destroyed the crop. So it looks like the crop's not there, but it didn't technically get harvested. It just got destroyed. So I think that's why I could still see a patch of fertilization there earlier when I was looking at the map. So when you destroy the crop, it doesn't eat up the fertilization like harvesting does. Actually, you know what we could do? Since this guy's done for the moment, I think I'll hook this tractor up to the subsoiler and get started on the plowing while I finish spraying the field. We'll get all that done a little bit more quickly. Okay, so I'm going to back this up the same way as my trailer. I admit that I'm pretty bad at backing things up, so you're going to see me make some mistakes. You might get tired of seeing me. No. There's a 50-50 chance that I get it right, and I pick the wrong one pretty much 100% of the time. All right. Yeah, so this way we'll keep both tractors employed. And you'll see as we go through this series that that's kind of my expansion strategy. Some people like to upgrade all their equipment right off the bat, which is fine. But the thing is that having bigger and better equipment, it doesn't really make you money any faster, unless you go to accelerated time. So what I prefer to do is I prefer to keep adding land until the workload for my equipment gets to be too much, and then I update the equipment, and then I add more land and update the equipment, and so on and so forth. That's generally the way that I like to play. It's not quite as exciting because there's probably nothing more rewarding in the game than getting a nice big shiny tractor that's going to be twice as good as the one that you have, but I think it's a smart way to play. Right, so with these two tractors that I have now, I mean, once I get some money in the bank, I'll probably buy another field before I buy another tractor. Now, I might buy another harvester because that harvester is a little slow. And like I mentioned in the last video, I think it's probably a little bit out of place on this map. Being a Russian-made tractor in Germany, I think in Germany it's probably more likely to be a New Holland or a Fendt or something like that. Okay, so I'm going to set this, hire my worker. Yeah, and this tractor is slightly underpowered, but I think the field is flat enough that it won't be a big problem. Let's see. Yeah, power requirement. Oh, no, it's not. 140. I was thinking it was 180. Okay, yeah, that's not bad at all. I got plenty of power. As long as it stays relatively flat, he should be able to work it pretty close to full speed most of the time. All right, so let's get the spraying done. And please let me know in the comments if you're okay with the pace of this series. I guess as long as I have things to say, I don't mind doing a relatively repetitive task like this in real time. But if you prefer to see a quicker progression from one activity to the next and just have me do cuts and time lapses, let me know. I can do that as well. It's not my preference to do that a lot, but if you want to see me maybe do half the field and then just cut to the point where it's finished, that's certainly something that we can work on. But if you enjoy hearing me talk and work, then that's totally fine with me. Because I have to do all of this in real time, no matter what you see on YouTube. So, so it's certainly easier for me just to do it all in real time and then upload it. But I can do some edits here and there. It's not a big problem. All right, so we started with 2,000 in the tank, and we're down to about 750. Yeah, and so this would be, one tank of the liquid fertilizer would be more than enough to do both of these fields. No problem. Okay, we'll fold that up. And we'll take this back to the farm. fairly certain that I'm going to have to spray this field to get rid of weeds before we finish, or before we harvest the crop, let's say. So I think before I go back, no, I'll go back to the farm first. A nice new feature for 19 is that you can empty your planters and seeders and sprayers of whatever they have inside, and it'll go into a little tank. So the reason I want to do that is because I'm going to have to spray herbicide on the fields to get rid of weeds. If the weeds appear after the first growth stage, then the only way to get rid of them is to spray them. If they appear during or before the first growth stage, then you can use the weeder to get rid of them, which is a good option because you only have to buy the weeder once. You don't have to fill it with anything. So the sprayer in the long run is more expensive since you have to fill it every time. But so far my experience in this game has been that it quite often ends up that the weeds pop up in the second or third growth stage, and then I have to spray. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the button to unload this. Okay, so all the rest of the fertilizer that I had, whoops, wrong button, went into the tank. So while my plowing is taking place, I'll head back over to the shop and I'll fill this up with a tank of herbicide so that we're ready to take care of weeds when the time comes. And if it turns out that the weeds appear soon, then I'll just save the herbicide and then I'll go back and I'll buy a weeder, because we've certainly got more than enough money for a weeder. But I'm not going to spend the money on it until I'm sure that we're going to need it. We'll need it at some point, but I'll just keep my money until we have a need to buy something. All right, so let's buy 1 pallet of herbicide. It's rather expensive. Same cost as fertilizer. So it costs the same to kill it as it does to help it grow. Actually, it costs less to kill it because you only have to do that once. Fertilizer you need to put down twice. And I haven't done lime yet, but every few harvests the field will require lime. Every 3 harvests. And the lime animation, I think, looks awesome. It looks really good when the lime goes down on the field. And we'll need to buy a solid spreader for that. Okay. All right, so we can put this away for now. And we'll get ready to plant the other field. All right, and I had decided that that's going to be, the next crop is going to be canola. All right, so let's lower this. We all knew that was going to happen. Technically, I should lower it first and then detach it so that it doesn't drop on the floor. It won't break or anything in the game, of course, but I'm sure if I had bought one of these in real life with, you know, $40,000 or $50,000 of my own money, I would probably be pretty careful with it. All right, so let's see. How do I change seeds? Yeah, 5 plus 4. Great. I think is it this one? No. This one. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we're going to want to do canola, which is, geez, is that canola or cotton? I think that's canola. It kind of looks like cotton though, doesn't it? Okay, yeah, that's canola. I don't think I can plant cotton with this thing. I think you need a row planter for that. Okay. So I'm not going to start this just yet, at least not with a worker, because the seeding is going to go faster than the plowing is. And I don't want to catch up or get ahead with this guy. So I'm going to let this dude get about a half a field head start on me, and then we'll start the seeding. And we will see you in the next episode. Thanks a lot, everybody. See you soon. Bye-bye.